For me personally, I thought, especially in parasport, I feel like there's a lot of inclusion. Everybody's looks out for each other. And for me, I was pretty much welcomed into a sport I didn't know about, didn't know anybody, and everybody just kind of wanted to see me succeed and try different things. I don't know about you guys, but
yeah, I think it's automatically kind of like people that understand you, a family, a community. You can be automatically vulnerable because people understand you at kind of like a base level, and I think parasport's really interesting. We all have experienced resiliency at some point, so I think inclusion, like within our community, absolutely. I think inclusion of parasport in general has like a lot to go. I think we're still viewed as, I don't know, like less than the Olympics instead of like a parallel, and that whole movement I think has a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I found parasport quite a bit late. Got hurt in 2005 and didn't start till 2018. So for me, it was so awesome to find this community, and definitely felt like an outsider, growing up. And so it was really cool to find this group of people that I can really relate to and can share pretty exciting moments with.
One thing I found about the para community is being able to talk, like when you said vulnerability, being able to talk to anybody about anything, because I feel like in our community we're really open books.
Right.
And I don't really think that there's much that you don't talk about, like even the really, really personal things.
Yeah.
So for me that was super helpful in sort of even just dealing with my own disability and being able to be good with it.
Yeah.
So finding this community has been really helpful for me in a mental and emotional capacity.
When people talk to me or talk about my disability, depending on what language they're using, it's like, they don't get it if they're able-bodied, but do they like see me? Do they respect my disability? It affects if I feel like safe around a person or how like vulnerable I can be around somebody, depending on how well or not well they're communicating.
It's interesting that you say that because I was in an interview earlier where when I first got hurt, I was really struggling with the word disabled. Like I couldn't even say the word disabled, and I didn't really want to put myself there because I just mentally wasn't prepped. So I would call it differently abled. And so, but now, like years later, and I'm so comfortable in that, in disabled, and I am disabled, and that's fine. You know, it's not, it was such a, in my mind, I don't know if it made me feel like I was lesser than, or you know, but that was the space I was in, and now it's like, I own it, like I'm good with it. But it took a lot of years to get there. So, and yeah, I think a lot of people don't know what to say, you know? So, and then, and to your point, I think a lot of people with a disability, they have different ways in which they want to be, you know, so it's always tricky to, I think, navigate.
Yeah, I think language is so important, and I really relate to Tara's response, because after I got hurt and in 2005, one day it was fine, and the next day I wasn't so fine, and I tried to hide my disability as well as I could, and ran able-bodied sport. And whenever someone asked how come I have weird form the last lap, I was like, oh, I just have really bad form, and kind of would not kind of brush it off, and I wouldn't tell my college coach or anything like that. And then when I found the Paralympics, I kind of let that happen, and you know, I really noticed running better, but also people a lot of times don't know how to address me because my disability is in my brain. So a lot of times they're like, I mean, I've had plenty of people like, what's wrong with you? And it's like, that's probably not the best way to, to say that. And I think with mental health, things have really gotten better for me, because, you know, sometimes those disabilities can be very, some of the most serious ones, and and you can't see mine unless you see a CAT scan. So I think I've definitely struggled with that for a long time, but definitely starting to get better with it.
Oh, I welcome it. I welcome that interaction. I love when people come up, when I'm at the gym and shooting. I've had numerous people come up to me and talk to me about, like the sport. And what's the difference on the court, and you know, what are the rules of the game, and how did you get into it, all of those things. And I don't know, it just made me think of the Commonwealth Games. So this year we were in the Commonwealth Games for the first time playing 3-on-3 basketball. And it was amazing because it was so inclusive. That event was amazingly inclusive, where you had stand-up ball, the Canadian team playing, then wheelchair, then stand-up, then wheelchair. And so we were all super integrated. We were in the back together, we were talking to each other, we were riding the bus together. They were able to ask tons of questions about wheelchair basketball. And so to me, having events like that are, they're huge moving forward in, I think, all sport, and being able to make that jump and have that extra voice from other people from able-bodied sports saying, hey, guess what I saw, and it was so cool, hey, we should go do it. You know, and be able to get their butts in a chair and try it out, you know, because it's always different when you actually try it and you're like, oh my God, this is so hard. So.
Yeah, I think just to touch on Tara's point, like for me, it's like I have a passion for my sport, and any questions coming along about it, I want to talk about it. I want people to know about it. So when I'm in the gym by myself or just anywhere and people are coming around and asking questions, I think it's a really good opportunity, because for me, I didn't know about wheelchair basketball prior to my injury, and I wish I did. I wish I even just watched it, heard about it, something. I didn't know anything about parasports, so being able to kind of showcase it to people that might be the first time watching somebody play in a wheelchair, I think that experience I wish I had. I want to be able to kind of give that out as well to other people.
I agree. I think, you know, for me, I've never met someone who didn't like parasport. They just don't quite understand it. So I'm more than happy to, you know, talk about my sport, especially when it comes to podcasts. I think that's a great place to really dive into that, and definitely feel some people try and, you know, go around the question instead of directly asking the question. And so I think I try and make them as comfortable as I can. Like, hey, feel free to ask me these questions. And especially for me, I didn't know anyone who had a traumatic brain injury growing up who actually played sports. So, you know, that was really a big part of my drive, was to hopefully could be a possible role model for someone who did. And I'm sure there was people, but I just, at that time, I just didn't know anyone.
Specifically relative to sport, I have no issues talking about sport or parasport or being an athlete or being a high performance athlete, a Paralympian, anything related to that. I'm all for that. Education, I think if it organically comes up about disability, that you can tell right away if someone's an intention in nature, when they're asking questions what's wrong with you, you can tell with someone's vibe. I think specifically outside of sport, disability in the regular world, I think it is to a degree not okay to just ask somebody about their disability walking around.
On the topic of language, this has been a conversation with my track and field teammates. And what if someone calls you an Olympian instead of a Paralympian? How do you guys feel about that? That's been because it's gotten heated a couple times with a couple of my teammates, but I'm just curious your guys' perspective.
I usually will, in a polite way, rephrase it and say, well, you know, it was actually, I went to the Paralympics. It's important too to have our identity, right? That's what we do. It's, you know, it is separate, it is different. So I think it's important in that way, and I think for a lot of athletes, it can really strike a nerve.
Yeah, I think that's one of the ways that I can tell there definitely is still the disconnect in how people perceive the Olympics and Paralympics at different levels, because when you correct somebody, whether that's just repeating the answer back with the word Paralympian in it, or correcting them, and they're no, you're an Olympian, it's the same thing. I'm it's actually it's, first of all, it's incorrect, but also it's if hurtful is the right word, it's just that's not who I am, and I'm proud to be a Paralympian. I'm it's the same thing, and it's contextual and depends on the situation and how much time you have and who that person is, if you even care.
I think I think that's a great point because I think a lot of times people don't actually know the difference, and so for me, I try and tell them how much it means to me to be a Paralympian. And also, one thing that I've seen that is really cool to me is that on Olympic Day, they actually turned it to Paralympic Day at one of the schools, and they asked me to go and talk. And for me, I think that's like one of the first generations to have Paralympic Day, and that. For me, that was really cool. I was like, wow, that's really cool. Instead of an Olympian, you decided to invite me and actually change the day, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
In 2018, I reached out to a bunch of shoe companies, and they said, well, you haven't won anything yet, so come and talk to us again when you have some medals. And then I basically won everything that you could win. And then I came to them, and they said that your story is not good enough and your disability is not sexy. And so I was like, okay, maybe I just need to tell my story better. And so I kind of went back to that and then reached out to these companies, and then even ambassadorships I can't get. And so there's able-bodied athletes who are running like barely faster than me or have shoe deals, and I can't get a shoe deal. And so I guess I finally had my ends wet, and I tweeted saying, hey, I'm not mad at this certain company, but I'm sick and tired of companies saying that they're going to sponsor para-athletes and just sponsor one in the world. And they'd be like, okay, I'm done. And for me this year, I actually almost had to quit because I couldn't pay my bills. And I'm in the best shape I've ever been in. Set a huge PB this indoors, and so really feeling ready to go. And I think that was really frustrated because the narrative was, Nate, you need to win medals. And I'm like, well, I've won Worlds, Paralympics, 3 world records. Like, I don't know what, I clearly just don't, I'm not trying to be cocky, but I don't know what else I can win. And so I just want to get that ball rolling. I don't know if it's going to change for me. Obviously, selfishly, I would love for it to change for me, but so that was kind of my incentive to send that tweet out.
Awesome though that you went out and that, I mean, not only did they tell you that, but then you went out and then you proved that you could do all of those things, and you did them amazingly. And still, there's that massive gap in what else can I do? I've won all the things, and you're still telling me I'm not good enough.
I mean, to be frank, they probably just said it as a reason, and they
Yeah,
really
just
just
to kinda
don't
cover
give a
up.
shit about like actually having a Paralympian or like the right like type of disability. Like they just, here's our cover story, and then you did it all.
Yeah,
and they're like,
Yeah.
no.
And one of the really cool things was the support I got from all of my Olympians and Paralympian
Yeah, absolutely.
athletes. I mean, I honestly thought I was going to get like 5 likes and be like, all right, cool, like, and then it ended up for me kind of blowing up, and I was like, dang, this is really cool. And yeah, I mean, that was the biggest takeaway for me, which was the support I got from my
Yeah, I
fellow
think
athletes.
it was a good thing because it brought awareness as well. Cause I saw that as well too, and yeah, it's crazy to think that there is not that many Paralympian athletes sponsored. So to see you accomplish and stuff, and not getting ambassador, like getting rejected from companies, it kind of gets discouraging for some of us, especially me being a new para-athlete, still trying to get my my legacy started in a sense. I don't know, but yeah, no, it's I think it does bring more awareness, and hopefully the movement can get bigger, and yeah, I think a shoe deal should be able to come your way soon.